Another one I like to say is don't let them get lost in the weeds. Some of the, I'm sure you've been at board meetings where you've had, you know, the most nonsensical discussions about the smallest items on your budget, and you're like, why? Why? You know, the building's falling down, and you're having a discussion about the $200 in postage. You know, what are we going to do strategically to raise the money, or to just, you know, pick a contractor to fix the building? But that's as much our fault if we're management as it is the board chair and whoever's committee is overseeing that. So, you know, don't let them get lost in the weeds. Now, one of the key ways to do this is with something that both I think independent sector and board source recommend, which is called a consent agenda. And if you go out on Board Source's website, so it's Board Source, B-O-A-R-D, Source, S-O-U-R-C-E. If you go out on their website and just Google or do the search command for consent agenda, an article will come up. I don't know if you have to be a member to get it. If you have a problem, email me. But a consent agenda basically is you send out all the materials beforehand. Everybody reads them. If they have any issues, they bring it to the attention of the board chair. And those items are not discussed. There's just one vote at the start of the board meeting that they approve the, you know, the committee reports and things like that. So it takes this huge amount of time when you normally were, everybody was reading board reports and all this other stuff, and it condenses it down into a very short vote. Some things maybe, if someone calls up and says to the board chair, I don't like this item, I want to discuss it at the board level, they may take it off the consent agenda. But basically, you can approve finance committee minutes, you can approve exhibition committee, you know, program committee, things like that. So then you have the rest of what's probably a 2-hour meeting to really get into the meat of the strategic issues that are facing the organization at that time. And it takes a while to get your board used to it, but once you do it, you just afford yourself all this time to do strategic thinking and planning. Even if you have a working board, I advocate doing this, because eventually you have to morph to a strategic board. So you might as well start. I really believe that if you can send the materials 10 days in advance, you do. I had many nights that when I was still at the music, the guard was trying to throw me out at 10 o'clock because I was trying to finish the finance committee stuff to go out with the board report on time. We emailed a lot of stuff. And even the other boards I sit on now, they email it. Or they use something called a shared database. What's a shared database? You can use Google Docs, which is free. You can use something like Basecamp. And basically, you just give people passwords and the URLs, and they can sign in and they can access the documents. Basecamp also affords you a way to have an ongoing conversation just among the people that are authorized to use the site. And they may have a rate for nonprofit. I don't know. I believe that the finance committee needs to meet before the board meeting. You know, not only so that the minutes are approved, but so that if there's anything going on, they can present it either in the stuff that's going to be in the consent agenda, or they can do it separately. You really don't want a lot of that financial detail. It doesn't need to come to the board meeting. They need to be made aware of it, but they don't, you know, the non-finance committee members don't necessarily need to be mucking around in it, because often they don't understand it. So I always advocate that your finance committee meet in sufficient time before the board meeting so that they can speak cogently about whatever the issues are from a financial standpoint. And if you don't have a finance committee, then I recommend it be your executive committee. If you don't go to a consent agenda, you need to get away from reading the board reports. The more you do that, the more you give permission to the people that don't prepare for the board meeting to not be prepared. You know, I mean, you can't be nasty about it, but you just can say, well, you know, I believe that was covered in the board report that was issued to you last week. You know, if you can't find it, let me know and we'll talk about it offline, something like that.